It's the end of the year, and we're here to celebrate. Today, we're going to take a look back at 2021, talk about our favorite episodes, games, and so on and so forth for the year, and then take a look forward at what's in store for us and for you in 2022. It's a short one, but it's great, so put on those party hats and let's count down to a new year on today's trip down memory card lane. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. I hope these words find you happy, healthy, and well. Hello, and welcome to the 70th episode of our Video Game Nostalgia podcast, A Trip Down Memory Card Lane. Each week, we take a look back at one title relevant to the current week in gaming history, and we talk about it. While doing so, we hope to teach you something new about the game, what it took from the world as its inspiration, and what it gave back to the world in its legacy. There is no game today, however, because it is, I know, shocking. There is no game. I am a failure. No, I'm just kidding. So, for the last week of every year, we look back in retrospect to all the games we've talked about, all the games that we've played, and we look ahead to the following year. So, this is our 2021 year in review. I'm David Casson, and as always, joining me is my co host who sticks by my side day in and day out, my brother, Rob Casson. Rob, do you regret it yet?
Since day one, Dave.
Hey, let's be honest. It's at the very least some very good time for you to get some RuneScape in every week.
Damn straight
Li-
it, Dave.
Like it's your dedicated RuneScape time.
Hey, you gotta have some time set aside for the grind, or else you'll never get it done.
So other than RuneScape, what have you been playing this week?
This week's been some Rocket League, a bit of Escape from Tarkov, and that's really about it.
Yeah, how's the old Tarky doing this week?
I've definitely not been playing as much as my friends have, but it was a rough week for me. I don't think I had a good raid until the very last one I did. It was a
Yeah,
rough week.
it do be like that sometimes.
It sure do be, Dave. But you know what? It's okay. We move on. It's just a game, right?
It's just
Yeah,
a game.
totally.
Absolutely, just a game, boys.
What about you? What have you been playing?
I think we played Rocket League together. I think. I can't remember.
I don't think
Eh,
so.
no, maybe it was Nick and I that played then. Um, I got the start of my Forza weeklies. I played through, I'd say, three-quarters of a little game called The Ascent, which is like a cyberpunk twin stick shooter type RPG game.
Hmm.
And I got a Christmas present. My childhood best friend and I, the weird one, you know who I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
He knows who I'm talking about too. Love the fact that we're weird together. He we try to find, or at least he tries to find. He's better at it than I am. He tries to find me a weird video game every year, and something I maybe haven't heard of that would like, or it's just totally bizarre. Not crappy, but different, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he bought me a game this year that was flying under my radar called Inscription, and the it's hard to talk too much about it without giving it away because it's a mystery type game.
Uh,
But to sum it up, it is a deck building game that is also like a mix with it's a mix with a deck building game, an escape room, and a puzzle game. Like there's elements of all three in there. And it's got a gothic horror theme. It's cool because like some of your cards talk to you, for instance, to push the story along, which is really creepy.
is this Yu-Gi-Oh?
Dude, it's weird. It's cool though. Like I put like 10 hours into it from Christmas, and I don't want to put it down.
Have you believed in the heart of the cards yet, Dave?
I have. But the thing of it is just when I thought I had the game beat, it completely flips itself on its head and becomes essentially a different game where you have to learn different strategy. And the way they do it is cool and it's different. And he found me a gem this year that I mean, I was literally playing it and just before we got on here. So Inscription, if you've never had a chance to play it and you're into card games and or puzzle games and you can tolerate the card aspect, it's an excellent game actually. So yeah, so here we are. This is our second year doing an end of the year review. Just to lay it out, we look back at the year, talk about our favorite episodes, look back at some of the games we played throughout the year if we want to talk anything about them, and talk a little bit about what we're looking forward to next year, maybe some games, maybe some episodes. It's not usually a full length episode. I feel like this time of year, everyone's got stuff going on with their family, people are off, and we try not to take up too much of your time. When we did this last year, we had only put out 18 episodes. Actually, the year in review was our 18th episode because of where we started in the year. And so we're here in 2021. We started out on episode 19 on January 6th, which we talked about Diablo. And we played Diablo since, haven't we?
At least the first, well, most of the second one, but the first and most of the second.
Now, I know you're going to give me some smart ass answer, which I'm totally waiting for, but what do you think about Diablo? Like, are you enjoying it?
I did while we were playing it.
I thought you were. I was expecting something very close to that. Like, well, I played it, didn't I? Um, do you? Is there things that you don't like about Diablo? I always thought that you would really like Diablo. I think that because you're a big RuneScape person, and I've known you to play other games that have a grind to them, and the grind is what turns people off to Diablo, so I didn't think that it was going to bother you. And I don't know, I thought that I just always kind of had a sense that you might actually really like Diablo.
So I guess one thing I didn't like as far as Diablo 1 is concerned, and I didn't play enough of 2. I mean, but 2 it didn't seem the way when we were playing it that this was the case. I didn't like how once you got to a certain level, you literally had to repeat the same things over and over and go back and start over from like basics. I don't I mean, as having just started a new account on RuneScape again, the early game is awful, and having to repeat some of the stuff I've done 100 times before is really boring. And I don't know. I just feel like when you have to go back, it was nice that you could have the shortcuts and things once I learned about them, but having not known about them at first, it just felt like you had to do a lot of grinding more so than you would in normal game. Like RuneScape, I expect to grind, but when I'm playing something like Diablo, I wasn't expecting that kind of grind.
Gotcha. Well, I guess with that being said, what do you think of the transition to Diablo 2? Do you kind of understand why all of us fans of the Diablo series hold that game on a pedestal?
Yeah, no, it's a definitely it feels like an entirely different game. I mean, the story is the same, but the leveling aspect, there's so much more that you can do with skilling.
Oh, oh, they
It's
just
it was kind of overwhelming going from
yeah.
1 to 2.
we
I'm
haven't
not gonna
even
lie.
we haven't even touched that stuff because we haven't played through. We're still in the last act of like your first playthrough, and we haven't even gotten to where you can actually like end game refine your character. And something really cool, they just rebalanced the characters. It's the first time they've ever rebalanced Diablo 2 characters, like ever, like in it,
Oh,
well, let's say like a decade or something like that. Like it's a big deal what they just did because they're getting ready to do ladders, to bring the ladder, which was a really big community aspect to Diablo, both the Diablos. And so they did some character rebalancing. I don't know the details, I haven't had a chance to look back at it, but um I love the fact that they're still, and we got the remaster. I decided to do the remaster, which is excellent. If you haven't played it, it doesn't reinvent the wheel. It just puts a shiny coat of paint on it, and I think that that is a really good way to approach a remaster. And now the top of the fact that they're recognizing that they can rebalance it for competitiveness and actually doing that, I think is honestly kind of beautiful. But yeah, it's a really good. It was a really good game. We need to finish it so you can go into Diablo 3, which I think you might like a little more, mostly because every game has stepped closer to the pace of a modern game, if that makes sense. So each one's a little bit quicker.
Right on. Well, we'll have to finish up 2 and see how 3 is for me.
Yeah. Yeah, so we did Diablo and the beginning of the year, and now we're here at the end of 2021 with our 70th episode. 1 year of weekly episodes. So we did 51 episodes this year because we're a weekly podcast. And that gives us a whole lot more content to look back on and discuss than our 18 of last year. So, Rob, I'm just going to start with you. Um, what was your favorite topic that we did this year?
We've done a lot of topics that are really big to me. I mean, obviously, I loved having my friends on for Super Smash Brothers, hearing them come in for. Just trying to look through the list real quick. Having them also come in for Overwatch, Phoenix Wright, talking about all of that. Just getting to hang out with friends is always a great time. But we talked about Devil May Cry growing up, that and still to this day is one of my all-time favorite game series and everything. But I think for me, it's one that we did not too long ago, solely because it was the topic that I 100% am the most knowledgeable among us. It's something that I've spent hours upon hours. Actually, it's sickening to think now that I'm actually putting thoughts into it. I have probably just as much time in that as I do Rocket League as a series.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I've watched countless hours of the show, including I'm rewatching the original series right now. I got back into the trading card game in college after having been into it in all of elementary, middle, and high school. And being, perhaps the most popular franchise in the world, I think we said,
It
I'm going to
is.
have to say Pokemon, Dave.
Yeah. Yeah, I still love our little airplane epiphany from that episode.
Oh my god. It's just one of those thoughts that lives rent free in my head now that there's a freaking plane with Pokemon on it somewhere out there flying.
I
What?
I I think one of my absolute favorite things to do as I research for episodes is find the most bizarre things about the games. Um, and finding out that they make like $4 million or have made $4 million selling deliveries for a Pokemon airplane, which in turn the airlines turn into a whole Pokemon experience. That's just awesome. That's awesome. Um, yeah. Spec-
Absolutely. What about you, Dave?
Man, it's a hard one. Back in August when we hit our 52nd, our 1 year anniversary, we talked about this, and at the time you had said that Smash Brothers was your favorite, and I had said that Diablo was mine, and it might very well still be. I really like Diablo. I really liked, like we talked about back then, being able to see the original design document and kind of lay out how it changed in time. There was something really cool about that. But I've also really enjoyed all the time we've had guests on. I've tried to do that a little more often. It's difficult with scheduling, which I'm going to try to get better at, through the course of this year. But, we've brought your friends on with your episodes. My friends have been on for Ikaruga. What else? Overwatch? Yes.
Yeah, we had Matt on.
We had Matt on for Overwatch. Yeah. Yeah.
Mm,
I don't know if there were any others.
I swear there are, and we're just
Yeah,
blanking.
I know, and someone's gonna be very mad at me. Phoenix Wright was fun. We had company for Phoenix Wright.
Yep, that was Keffer.
I always like when I'm not the authority at any of this. You know, I do my research. I can't touch on everything. I try to float over a lot of stuff just to kind of give everyone a roundabout topic, and I, I try to do a little bit deeper of a dive. You know, I feel like a lot of, and I listen to quite a few retro podcasts, but a lot of them talk about their talk about them. Like, I played this when I was young, and I felt this about this, and I felt this about that. So I feel like that kind of podcast is a dime a dozen. And so we try to be a little bit different in that I want to teach people about the game, and you know, that's why I like to talk about development, because I don't hear about the development cycle on a lot of other games, and I think that's cool. Are like where the games came from, like Pokemon was what his the bugs on a stick, or something like that, wasn't it?
Some
um
bug, yeah.
yeah, you know, I love that stuff. I like I like the fact that we find weird stuff about video games for people to learn about. um but it always tickles my fancy when someone can get on and just steamroll me with their knowledge over something. I think that's beautiful too, and always a lot of fun. So the episodes when your friends bring their expertise is always cool.
Absolutely. And it'll definitely help as we grow to know other people who are experts, be able to hear talk about your favorite game. It is always more fun when you get to talk about something that you're passionate about.
Which, to be fair, we get to do day in day or week in week out. So um
That we
yeah,
do. But
that
it's nice to extend that to other people.
which people are welcome. You ever want to come on, hit me up, let me know. Email, Discord, there are many ways to find me.
Which
uh,
at the end of this episode, you'll hear.
but yeah, you know, a lot of great ones. Also, we got to play a lot of really cool games. You know, I got to play through Metroid, um, again, Super Mario RPG again. Got to play Chrono Trigger again. Um, ODST. This was my first time ever playing ODST, so that was super cool. Went back to the old Prince of Persia. Parappa the Rapper was a lot of fun.
Mhm.
Yeah, so we got to do a whole lot of cool stuff.
And I mean, even same as myself, I got to learn about a lot of very cool games as well. Journey, phenomenal game. Descent, not as phenomenal, but still great. um,
Yeah,
you
Journey's an
know,
excellent game.
yeah, absolutely. I finally got to play Metroid, River City Ransom,
Oh
went black
yeah.
paid Contra,
Yep.
got Duke Nukem 3D to play for the first
Oh,
time.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, no,
Interesting.
it was interesting for sure, but it was nice being able to expand and play games that I'd heard so much about and knew growing up that they existed and just maybe watched other people play them, but never got to myself. It was really enjoyable to go back and see a lot of these games and see kind of how they shaped what gaming is today.
True.
Because they do all have an impact, even if it's not the largest. It might just be that they didn't want to repeat it, much like ET,
Yeah,
but
right.
they all had an impact.
Yeah, ET should be a case study for how not to make a video game in 3 or 5 weeks.
I mean,
Um,
but to be fair, 3 to 5 weeks.
well, also to be fair, they have like 24 and 48-hour game jams nowadays where people make better video games than ET. So
I mean,
yeah, I know. So I
I
guess
was
it goes
trying to be
both
a little
ways.
nice to the creator.
Hey, he also made look, he made ET, but he also made the best-selling game for Atari 2600 too. So it goes both ways. He knows it, we know it. We're all good. We're all good. We're all
Yeah,
good.
you're right. You're right. You're right.
So, well, uh, we played a lot of classic games for this podcast, but we had a chance to do a lot of gaming aside from that. What was your gaming highlight for 2021?
Ooh.
I know. Well, I'll tell you. I'll start out by telling you mine. That'll give you a moment to think about it. So, um, Ghost of Tsushima. I'm so glad I picked that up. It was an excellent game. It's probably the top of my PS4 exclusive titles list. The aesthetic was gorgeous. The gameplay was tight. The story was amazing. If you've never played Ghost of Tsushima, I would highly recommend it. That definitely made the top of my list this year. So it's not even a question for me, realistically.
See, for me, it's difficult because I didn't play a lot of brand new games. Obviously, Farming Sim 22 and Battlefield 2042. Uh, but I played so many of these games that I've never gotten to play before.
Yeah,
And at the same time, I played a lot of games that I've been playing for a long time and enjoyed the hell out of those too.
yeah,
I
true.
mean, it was like I said before, it was definitely kind of great for me to be able to experience all of these older games. As far as the games I've been playing, I'm excited to say that I'm getting better at Rocket League again, and I'm consistently Diamond 2 now, which is great. Both my 2s and 3s are up there, so woohoo. Um, and I started a lot of games that I plan on going and finishing, and just got to sit down and do them. I haven't had a lot of things that I didn't like this year, and I know we're probably going to get to that next. But a lot of the games I played, I want to continue playing. I didn't have anything that I just flat out said this sucks, which is surprising because I've definitely had some games like that.
Oh yeah? Well then let's talk about that. Was there any game disappointment? Something that you were like super excited for and you finally got it and it was like, meh, this is okay.
See, I don't really have a lot that I get excited for games in that aspect. Like Battlefield 2042, it lived up to the expectations because it was better than the previous Battlefields. And I'm not going to try comparing it to 2142 because it's not that futuristic. I'm not going to compare it to 1942 because that's such a historic game. And it's been improvements on both of them. Farming Sim is Farming Sim. It's got a lot of improvements. It's great. The old games, I knew the ones that were great for a reason, and the ones that I didn't know about, I probably didn't know about for a reason. Um, I guess I I'm really trying to think hard about something that was just like this really sucks, or I'm not impressed about this with gaming this year, and I I really can't think of it. I mean,
Well
it's just for
that's good.
me at least. It's been a high year. I mean, I got to experience these new games, and even in virtual reality. I recently got into that, and it's it's just a whole new world of gaming.
Very true. Very true.
What about
I,
yourself, though? What were you disappointed by? Because I'm sure
I
you found something.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly also don't have a whole lot. I avoid stuff I don't like, but I honestly would have to say Battlefield is one of mine. I like Battlefield. We've talked about it. I've played it since accidentally finding the first one on a shelf at Target somewhere, and I've always loved it. Our dad has been into it, and then it ended up being one of your favorite series. So for the longest time, that was a game that I mean, there were years that we bought it for one another so we could play with one another.
Hmm.
And so with every subsequent entry, I get excited to get that feeling again, but I haven't had it for a few entries now, and this year is honestly no different. Um, it's just not it's just not what I want it to be, and that's okay. I'm not going to crap on it beyond that because I think that there's something for everybody, and clearly there are people like yourself that like it, but it's just not my style, and I will say it's probably my disappointment for the year. So.
I mean, also to be fair, have you played it since the demo?
No, I have not played it for the demo.
So you haven't played any of the new game modes or any of the improvements they've made since that.
No, but that should be a really good thing that when you don't lead with your best foot forward, this is what happens.
But also keep in mind that in the past, we were dealing with a lot less content at the time for us to be able to play. I didn't have a PC when most of these games were coming out, so we were exclusively playing together on Xbox. So the choices were much more limited in what we could do together.
Yeah, that's true.
So it's just a little unfair to consider
Oh.
that when you think that we have so much more to compare against now. And the fact that it still is on your radar is a huge positive.
Yeah, that's very true. It's only on my radar though because it's on your radar. If you didn't enjoy it and wouldn't play it, I wouldn't be bothered with it at all. So, but you brought up a really good point. I mentioned at the beginning of the episode that this week I got to play the Ascent, and I played it cross-platform because my best friend who I played it with is an Xbox Series X gamer, and I'm primarily a PC gamer, and so we got to play it cross-platform. Him on Xbox, me on PC. Doing Xbox Party Chat cross-platform, and uh, uh, I know I've said it before, but I'm never not in awe of the fact that we've gotten to this point that we could do that and be playing the same game, the same quality. That's arguable. Um, on two different consoles basically. It's honestly, gamers that are coming up in this are like have no idea how, probably take it for granted. It's amazing, really. It's absolutely amazing that we can do that. And I think it's super cool, super super duper cool. So
Yeah, absolutely. When you consider how it was, even for when I was a child, when I was young enough to remember when consoles were first being released, even more so for you, it's an entirely different world for video games, and it's a wonderful thing to see that something we were so passionate about from such a young age has just taken over so much of society and still is such a huge part.
oh, bigger part. I mean, I think media wise, it's probably the biggest form of media. um I could be wrong on that, but that's
Well, I
okay.
mean, yes, also to be fair, never as children would we think we could get paid to be good at video games.
Very true. That's so
Maybe
true.
card games we knew at the time, but video games, ha, yeah, right. Those just
Yeah,
rot your brain.
yeah, true enough. All right, well, that's kind of what I have for looking back on the year. And before I move forward, is there anything else from last year that you would kind of like to touch base on?
Um, it's been a trying year, but we're here
Yep.
and we're going to keep moving forward. And it's exciting to see what the future holds for us. Not only as video gamers, as podcasters, in life. It's
Hey, I got to come home in 2021, so woo.
exactly. And who knows what 2022 will bring. And we're
Mm,
not going to say it's 2022.
two. Yeah, I know.
This is not 2020 as well. This is a new year and we're going to start with our best foot forward.
We are going to start with our best foot forward. So let's talk about next year.
Let's
Uh,
do it, Dave. What do we
as you,
got planned?
well, we have a lot of stuff planned, some really cool stuff. So,
Okay, cool, because I didn't know.
yeah. You're a very busy person, okay?
Yeah, sure, let's go with that.
Yeah, you're a very busy person. I um I got a little bit of input from you, and I worked things in. I worked things in. But you know me, I'm a planner. I need to be able to write ahead of time. I need to be able to plan ahead of time. Which really just means I have the episode planned and then we end up writing it right before we record it type deal. But we're gonna be better this year.
Yeah.
So yes, I have most of next year, excuse me, mapped out. With that being said, I'm not going to hold myself as much to it as I did this year, because one of the things I really want to do this year was when we were talking about things, I did a whole lot of, I want to talk about that at a later date. I want to talk about that at a later date. I would like to talk more about this in a different episode. And because I really just planned everything out and designed all the artwork and everything, I never really gave a space to add those kinds of things. So I gave us a little bit of flexibility, but with that being said, there are still a lot of really cool things that I have planned throughout the year. Um, that hey, now you get to find out about. So coming up in January, one of my favorite all-time games, Castlevania Symphony of the Night, turns 25. So we'll do an episode on Symphony of the Night to celebrate its 25th anniversary. Rob, have you ever played Symphony of the Night?
I've never played Castlevania in general. Yep. Yep, go ahead. Get it out.
Wow. Hey, you have it though. Didn't I tell you to buy it, like that Switch pack of the original classics, when it was super cheap? And you did?
I believe yeah, I did.
Okay.
So I do have it. Yes, I will be able to play it.
Well, I don't think you have Symphony of the Night. Symphony of the Night is on. I'll find out where it is. Do you like Metroidvania games though? The jury.
I have not played enough of them to say because Metroid Prime was my first and then Metroid was my second. And
Gotcha.
Metroid was this year.
Yeah, yeah.
So
So
Yeah, give me some time.
yeah, Symphony of the Night is one of my favorite all time games. It's an excellent Metroidvania and a good game in general, and I love it. And it turns 25 this year, so we're gonna do that one. The Metal Gear series turns 35, so we'll celebrate that anniversary. Street Fighter also turns 35, as does Final Fantasy.
Ooh,
Right?
a
Final
lot of
Fantasy.
35s.
Yeah, Final Fantasy's a December episode though, so that'll come at the end of the year. That's because it turns 35 in December. Metal Gear and Street Fighter are the middle of the year somewhere. Super Mario Kart turns 30. I know we kind of a little bit touched base in Super Mario Kart in one of our first episodes when we were trying to figure out the formatting, but we never did a specific episode like we do nowadays on it. So we'll celebrate Mario Kart's 30th anniversary. The Fallout series turns 25, and I know it's one of both of our favorite series, Assassin's Creed, turns 15 this year.
Oh,
So we'll go and look back at the Assassin's Creed. We've kind of talked about
what?
that. We've kind of talked about that before, because we talked a little bit about its origins in the Prince of Persia episode. So I alluded to that, and we're gonna cover it again. So,
That really
um,
came out 15 years ago?
yeah, the original one came out 15 years ago.
Oh
Yes.
my god.
Just wait, only gets better from here. Final Fantasy's 35. What the hell? Symphony of the Night. I remember being a teenager and loving Symphony of the Night, and here we go. It's 25 years, and I'm like, holy crap, you know. Um, I got a bunch of console episodes planned. This year I think
Ooh.
we only did one, which was the Dreamcast, if I'm not mistaken. So coming up throughout the year, I have some plans. We're gonna look at a Japanese only console called it's a Super Nintendo peripheral, but it's called the Satellaview. It was the first like satellite video game deal,
Oh.
and a lot of our series that we know of distributed video games exclusively through that we can't get elsewhere. Like there's a whole Legend of Zelda series that's only available through that. We'll talk about, for instance. We just got into VR this year, so I thought it'd be goofy to do a Virtual Boy episode. Uh, I'm sorry, but we'll talk about that and the disaster it is. Recently, I said I wanted to look at the first generation of video game consoles, and so we'll do that starting with the very first video game console ever made, which was the Magnavox Odyssey. We're going to look at a relatively unknown handheld called the Sega Nomad. We're going to look at the first console to ever use exchangeable cartridges called the Fairchild Channel F, and we've touched base on it. So I finally did an episode on the Nintendo 64 DD, the disc drive. Um, aside from
Hmm.
that, aside from that,
Dave, of that entire list,
yeah,
I only knew two of them, and one of them only because we talked about it on a previous episode.
which is the DD,
Yeah, that would be the DD.
and
Yeah, and I knew about the Virtual Boy,
but the
yes.
Virtual Boy, yeah,
But yeah, nothing else. So hey, looking forward to learning some stuff this year.
yeah, yep, yep. Topical. We got some topic stuff. We are doing an episode on the worst Mario game of all time, the game that's universally known to be the worst Mario game of all time. We're gonna look at the game that literally defined the real time strategy genre. I have planned an episode on the company that is the biggest seller of unlicensed video games for the Nintendo, and we'll talk about their fight with Nintendo and the lockout chip in the Nintendo cartridges. And at one point this year, we're going to talk about an excellent video game, very well known and loved RPG that, despite that, still managed to bankrupt its development studio. So, got some fun episodes, and that's really only about a quarter of the planned episodes. I mean, there's a lot more. We'll end up with another 50 some, but that's a little taste of what we've got planned for the next year. Definitely a lot of stuff to learn. Definitely a lot of stuff to learn. Some kind of cool stuff tagged in there. So
Heck yeah.
yeah. So we got a whole nother whole nother stuff. Um, I don't know. There's some fun stuff in there for next year. So anyway, that's it. Um, what about games we're looking forward to? Moving, I know that's not usually your thing, but off the top of your head, are there any video games that you're kind of excited for coming out in the next year?
Well, thanks to your list, I was able to remember a couple of them that I would
Yeah,
have completely forgotten about. Because you're right, I have a very bad time of keeping up with what's coming out in the year, and I forget things.
I know.
But I would definitely say I am most excited for Elden Ring.
Yep.
I love the Dark Souls series, and I played a lot of time with Damon in 3, and having a new game in the series, I'm really excited to see what they did with it and how it is. But then the second one, it's actually very close to first, and the only reason that I do like the other one more is because there's just so many of these that I haven't played yet. But Pokemon Legends Arceus.
Yep.
I mean, with Brilliant and Shining having just come out, I haven't even gotten those yet. So the thought of another one already being out next year and still having two that I haven't gotten is a little overwhelming. But I'll get there because I am one of those people.
True statement.
What about
Well,
yourself?
so I'm looking forward to a new Horizon in this Horizon, Zero Dawn in the series. This one will be Forbidden West.
Ooh,
I'm a big Battle or Borderlands fan, so Tiny Tina's Wonderland will probably appeal to me.
yep.
And I'm looking forward to, I'm an absolute sucker for space games, and Bethesda's jumping into the mix with Starfield, and so I am excited for what I'm hoping is a space Skyrim.
Which would be awesome.
I know. Well, and then we got some Rob. We got some video game films to look forward to this year, uh,
Ooh,
or not look forward to, depending on your definition. Like, we just got a trailer dropped for Uncharted, um, the movie, which comes out February 18th, I think. We get a Sonic the Hedgehog sequel, and then hell will freeze over when we get a live Mario, with Chris Pratt doing the voice of Mario. So.
yeah, we shall
that's
see how that
that's
goes.
that's like December 20 something. So that we got a whole year before that happens. So live up 2022. And then I did see, I don't know if you've had a chance to see it before, but I stumbled across for the first time the live action trailer, or the trailer for the live action Halo series that they're going to be doing on Paramount. And
Oh,
I'm stoked. I mean, I know it can go sideways, but goddamn does it look awesome. So,
I actually did not know that was a thing, so that's
oh
actually pretty
yes,
exciting.
yes, go look at it.
And I think I did just get Paramount because mom wanted it, and I was able to get
Yeah.
finally. I still have to see the stupid post-COVID episode of South Park.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, I'm excited for a live Halo series. So,
That'll be sweet.
anything else we're looking forward to? Uh,
Uh, just looking forward to it being a better year. You
yeah,
know,
true statement. Very true.
hope everyone continues to remain happy and healthy and staying positive, looking towards a new day because there's a new day.
Right. All right. Well, I'm gonna rush through the plugs because I don't feel the need to dig them in. If you want to learn more about our podcast, us, other episodes, or find a place to support us through Patreon or Discord, you can do so on our website at www.memorycardlane.com. Really simple. Just remember Memory Card Lane. You can find that on Twitter. We're in Reddit. We're in Facebook, and we have the website. My suggestion is come join us on Discord, because if you're here on Discord, we're always playing video games there with our friends. We'd love to have you. Just come visit www.memorycardlane.com. You can also find our social media plugs. I'm David is wrong. Rob, what do you got going on social media?
I will be found on twitch.tv/FATBOIRIPZ.
All right. Well, uh, this is about the time in the episode normally where with each episode we try to do a recap and see what we learned. Rob, did you learn anything today?
Uh,
You learned there was a Halo Live
that
series.
I did. Yes, I learned there was a Halo Live series.
Yeah. Yep. So there we go. We taught you something. Hopefully some of you out there learned at least something about I don't know, maybe you never heard of Inscription before or the Halo Live series. So maybe a little thing like that. A little treat for you today. So Rob, go ahead. Take the stage for your moment.
What's my moment?
We just want to say thank you.
Oh, okay. Thank you. No, thank you all so much for listening. It's been a wonderful year. 70 episodes. Never thought that I'd get to the point saying that. And it means the world to us that you're all listening. Uh, we don't hear from you nearly enough, but that's okay. Being someone who struggles with reaching out, I get it. It's still nice to know that there's people out there enjoying what we do and hopefully bringing a little knowledge to you, maybe hitting you right in the feels once in a blue moon. But we're going to continue doing it as long as we can, as long as we find it enjoyable, and we hope that you continue for the same amount of time. So thank you all.
True statement. All right. Well, I'm gonna take it out of there. So next week we're gonna be turning it up to 11 as we look back at the early history of musical acts in video games, starting with Journey Escape in 1982. We'll be looking at a number of video game titles throughout the 80s and 90s starring famous musicians or musical groups. Aside from Journey, we'll be including games starring Paul McCartney, Michael Jackson, Aerosmith, the Wu Tang Clan, and more. Bet you didn't know all those guys had video games, did you?
No, I did not actually.
There's more. There's some. You're gonna learn some stuff next week. I learned some stuff. I'm kind of excited because there's some really kind of weird stuff in this category. So anyway, join us again next week as we take the center stage on a musical trip down memory card lane. Do the thing.
Doo doo ba doo ba beep ba.